you're going to build a technology company and you want your first 50, there are so many components of what makes a successful cult, of what you're trying to bring on. People that are really there because they bleed for the clients. They're like, welcome to Next In. I am joined with my co-host, Shane Chown. How you doing, Shane?
I'm doing good. I'm on my third coffee today.
All right.
Yeah, woke up with prayer and fasting at 5 a.m. and all I'm doing is coffee.
All right, me too. So today, first off, I want everyone here, if you are listening and you're a founder or you're an executive who is involved in a technology company, I want you guys to come to us. We want to bring on more guests. We have, I think, 5 or 6 recordings this week, 4 or 5 next week. We would love to record. We just love to talk to executives, find out what they're doing, what's going on at their company, and get their opinions on everything from growth to hiring to AI melting our eyeballs, all those fun things. So comment on this, DM either Shane or myself. We'd love to have you guys on. So, and for everyone else, subscribe, like, comment, do all those fun things. So what's on your mind today, Shane?
Yeah, what I'm thinking about this week and what's been popping up a lot is I've been talking to a lot of CEOs this week, specifically ones that are going through kind of that early stage, Series B, Series C, sometimes earlier stage is what are some of the mistakes that we see very commonly, like where the CEO or other executive staff make mistakes in the hiring process? That's something that's been top of mind. It's something that we've been talking to our team a lot lately, something that we've been training on, which is what are the common things that people do to shoot themselves in the foot that prevents them from making the hires that they want to make?
I think it depends on stage. So are you talking first 50? Are you talking Series B, Series C?
Probably first 50, but more than 10. So we're past. We've kind of got that product market fit. We've found the founding team. That's in place. But then now we're trying to break that barrier of now we're starting to add the other stuff.
So biggest mistake made?
Yeah.
Thinking about technical fit and speed to hire and so on, and not thinking about the culture you are building in your first 50.
What does that mean? Help me understand that.
We've had a few guests who have talked about this idea that the first 25 or first 50, I guess depends on size of company and type of company, but that early stage, so like you said, not founding team. I think a lot of times founding team is a different discussion.
It's a different breed of person, right?
So now you've got your 13 or 14 people. You're starting to move quickly. You've got a decent amount of capital raised.
Probably just raised 20 million or more. And you're like, now we've got to scale from that 15-person team up to that 50 plus.
Right. And so they're thinking scale
Systems.
Too much is my opinion. They're thinking, how do I scale fast? Which is important, but they haven't really thought about how those people in so many ways will set the tone that in 4 or 5 years, you'll look back and go, those original product people or engineering people, sales staff, whatever, it almost doesn't matter any department they're in, and how impactful I believe you'll look back, and I would guess, I'm guessing, and I'm inviting right now, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Elon to come on the show, and we'll discuss this very specifically. Uber, Travis can come talk to us about those first 25 or 50 employees, and you look 4 years later and you look back at how that company has grown. I'm guessing they would remember most of those 25 or 50, and they'll have stories to tell about how they impacted the product and the business that it has become. I don't know that they'll always say because of how great they coded or their technical skill. Now, granted, have to have. So I think a lot of people misinterpret and they're like, oh, I don't need to know how to code and I can be an engineer.
No, that's not how it means at all. But so I want to dive into that a little bit deeper, because I think there's a lot of people where they've got their CFO, they've got their HR consultant, whatever, and they have the roadmap. It's laid out. We have our accountabilities. We know who's the visionary, who's the integrator, and then we know all the seats. We understand all the seats that need to be filled. And sometimes people think, oh, well, if I just find the right technical fit for the right seat, we're good to go. We're clear to go, right? And so many people overlook what happens in those seats, right? Where they're like, oh, got the seats filled, and then it goes and crashes and burns. So,
Or I don't know if it always crashes, but it gets stale, right? It doesn't
yeah.
it doesn't have hockey stick growth, and you wonder why. I think that's I would
So
argue
what's
it's
that
more than
why?
that. Crashing and burning, I think, is more obvious. It's the
The
goes
plateau.
stale, and it doesn't really actually, the product doesn't scale, the company doesn't scale. You've grown the team, but it just kind of,
You're dealing with the internal conflict, and it feels like you're backfilling more than you are growing. Kind of
yeah,
that kind of environment where you're like, I feel like we got the right technical fit. They should have
yeah.
been doing well, but they're just not. Like there's something missing, and you kind of have that. I don't know. I think the leaders sometimes have that imposter syndrome where they're like, but I did everything right. Like we made the blueprint. We
Yeah.
made the blueprint. Why is it failing?
Yeah, I
Or
think
why is
the
it not growing?
I
I guess
think
failing is maybe a bad word for it, to your point. Maybe it's
the
just there's something's missing. There's this imposter syndrome. There's this lack of something. There's this like, what's going on?
yeah.
The
Again, I'll
confusion.
invite Bezos to come on and talk. He probably wants to be on the show and let us know what did he do when he was growing and scaling Amazon, especially the early days, right? Once they have 1,000 employees, I think everything's a little bit different. But in those first 50, first 75, first 25, I would assume he was heavily involved in each person. And my guess, he really thought a lot about mission fit,
Yeah.
culture fit,
Yeah.
right? Personality fit, right? How did they fit in that team? And were those people truly, we talk about internally, we talk about one of our team values, we call it a next level team, is bleed the red, black, and white, right? It's like this idea that those people, it's not just a job, but it's truly that they're like here for a reason and they love what they do. And no one loves work, right? I think we all love sitting on the couch or whatever, or swimming in a pool or whatever, but really bleed the red, black, and white. It's
Yeah.
it's hard to put a simple phrase that I think everyone wants, like that you can find on a resume. So how do you find it?
Yeah, I was talking to some folks at my church the other day, and there was this conversation about the church expanding. They were talking about how they were adding an additional church, Zeal South, right? And you had the core Zeal, and one of the big things that was talked about was like the fact that like people love the community, people love the mission, people love the secret sauce that exists within that environment, right? And one of the things that they were talking about was like they use this concept or they use this analogy of making sweet tea. And it's like there's like the secret sauce for the sweet tea. Like, what are the ingredients? How much sugar do you put in it? Whatever. And it's just like if the sweet tea is even off a little bit, like the difference between the good stuff and the bad stuff. And it's like, how do you get everybody on the same page on like what is the good sweet tea and what is the bad sweet tea? And how do you start building leaders, whether they're in management or not, is not the point, but how do you build leaders within the organization that know what that sweet tea tastes like, what it looks like, what it feels like, and then how do you make sure that you can pass that to the next person? And a lot
Isn't
of
it?
times,
Aren't you trying to? I mean, I know this is going to be so negative, but it's because I'm in the process of watching a great documentary. Isn't it kind of like building a cult?
it was totally building a cult.
I know people
It's
are like, oh
totally
my
building a
gosh,
cult.
these guys are creeps who want to build a cult. No, 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 no. Hang on, hang on. I'm not talking Nexium. I'm not talking, the Jonestown. Like let's get real. The cult, as we
Tom Cruise is doing an amazing job. I'm just saying.
don't hate us, Tom. You can come on the show. We'll bring you on.
Mission Impossible. Let's build a cult.
Yeah. So, but again, there is a lot of components of a cult that are awesome. It's just always when the supreme leader loses their mind. But the concept of I'm guessing if you went back to Uber with their 50 people, it was like a cult. They bled yeah, right. Wolf of Wall Street. Like it's that you just die to be a part of that group. Now, granted, they hopefully are grounded in logic and reasoning and don't, drink Kool-Aid because they are in Jonestown. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But it's that idea that you're again, I am watching How I Escaped My Cult, which is on Hulu.
Jonestown was so sad.
But yeah, they're all disturbing, like you can't imagine, because again, they go off the rails.
Yeah.
But if you're going to build a technology company and you want your first 50, there are so many components of what makes a successful cult, of what you're trying to bring on. People that are really there because they bleed for the clients and their team, and they're like, I want to make this the greatest product.
They want to
in
build a kingdom.
healthcare.
They want to build a
do.
legacy. They want to build something greater than themselves, and that's they're
Yes.
wanting to put their stamp on something that's going to be awesome. It's going to be special, but they like see the vision. They can attach themselves to the founder. They can attach themselves to the company's mission, and they're ready to rally it up. I think there's so much problems with that whole concept of so much around individualism, where it's just like, be your best self, do your best thing for you and only you. And it's like, well, no, like if you can't get in alignment with the early stage, that 15 to 50, if you can't be in alignment with what that mission is as a collective for the organization, for the kingdom, you're gonna fail.
All right. So if you're a CEO, because the question was, what mistakes do they make? So if you're a CEO, you have a technology company, you got product market fit, you got 15 employees, what, like, do you make the decision to hire someone strictly based on the vision connection? How would you weed that out to know that you have great mission and vision alignment, and that they are people that will bleed your team colors?
I just look at it as like, if you just need somebody to be just a straight up technical fit, you're like, I just have this very specific technical thing, this very specific technical challenge, but I don't need somebody long term vision. Hire them as a contractor. Use a third party agency and get them on payroll as like a contractor, a contract to hire. Make that thing terminal and set expectations that it's not to build the vision, it's not to build the future, it's just to tackle that problem. And I think that's the way that successful founders do it. Is like they understand the difference between the people that are there, that are there to build and to grow around and to shape around, and that are going to mentor and develop others, versus the person that's going in there to be a hit squad. Very different hiring process, very different hiring expectation.
Well, wouldn't you say that? I mean, look, we run a recruiting agency, so we are biased. Wouldn't you say the same? Wouldn't you say the same thing of like, if you're looking for someone, like, because what we do, and I know this because I know our team does it, the multiple conversations we have with candidates prior to ever bringing them over to the client, it's all meant to go, I'm not going to bring you over there because you have the 3 logos on your resume if you're not really truly dying to be a part of something. If you're not, like, call it sold on the company and the vision and where they're headed and the team that you're going to be on, then we won't even bring you over there. Is that one of the benefits, I guess you would say, of using a recruiting agency, a headhunting squad?
Yeah. And it's important to understand what people like to do outside of their day job, right? Like, we've got a client right now where they're just a bunch of nerds. They're people that collect card games. They're the adults that are still collecting Pokemon cards, the Yu-Gi-Oh cards. They're collectibles. They collect comics. They're very like artsy people. That's what they talk about. That's what they nerd out about. They go to these conferences, these events to go and look at cards and comics, and they collect music, and they're like these very spiritual creatures that are very much so art-based people. You throw somebody in there that's like watching football every weekend
So you're
and
saying I wouldn't fit in?
no, absolutely not. Like, if I ask you to talk about Pokemon with me right now, I don't know if that's going to go over very
thanks
well.
for joining us.
It messes with the culture, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it
it's like
does.
your day-to-day water cooler talk. The thing, like, when you're in the grind and you're in the thick of it, and you've got these peaks and valleys and this roller coaster of like chaotic messes where you're going to stay up till 2 a.m. with somebody to get shit done. Like, the fact that you can't have a casual conversation about something you're passionate about is gonna destroy the team.
Something no one understands, though, is that's also a part of this company's product. I think that's really important. It's not just be friends with the people you work with. The company's product, if you're not someone who has that creative, artsy vibe and you love that out of work, you probably can build the product. You won't stay up until 2 building the product because it's just not that special to you.
You're not going to put yourself in their feet. Like, you're not going to try to walk in the customer's shoes.
In their shoes.
You're not going to try to understand the mission. Like, if yeah, I mean, it's just different. It's different.
All right. So there's your 0 to 50 or 15 to 50. So now we're talking, we answered that question. Let's try to answer the question of, we'll call it 100 to 1,000 employee, because it's a different mistake that we'll call it
Yeah.
leaders. We're not going to necessarily say CEOs, but leaders, hiring managers, and even the talent team. What mistakes are they making?
Not recognizing what type of team they're hiring for and what type of team they're building, and being able to express that authentically, right? I think in every organization, the roles really, I mean, if you simplify it, it's to optimize performance, it's to do net new sales, or it's to protect money. Really, those are kind of like your three main roles. And so getting somebody on the team to recognize how are they adding value to the business, and then going, this person is building systems and optimizing solely to do that particular thing. I think it's missed so many
So
times.
when because you do a lot of consulting and you work with talent
Yeah.
acquisition teams or HR teams,
Yeah.
and even hiring managers in a lot of
Yeah.
companies in that stage, that 100 to 1,000, is that something that you do? You get a lot of questions about, or a lot of consulting where they go, "This is what we're looking for. We're looking for a level whatever from a Microsoft level. This is how much we're paying." Like
Yeah.
when you consult, w- what kind of stuff are you going? Let me help you understand this better.
Yeah, it's sort of what I was trying to get at, right? Is there's so many teams that don't know how to express themselves. So they might say, "I need a full stack engineer," and full stack engineer is such a coined term that it's just like there's so many of them, and so many hiring managers don't know how to communicate that to the recruiting team, and the recruiting team doesn't know how to go out into the world and actually find it, right? Like I could have a full stack engineer that's building net new features, and that's a client facing function. I could have a full stack engineer that's building internal tools, and that's more or less a DevOps function. I could have a full stack engineer that's building a database layer asset to other developers. Again, another more or less DevOps type, sort of, right? So, like understanding who the end consumer is, right? As we're training our recruiters, we talk a lot about, is this a B2C product, a B2B product, a B2D product, a B2G product? So like who's that end consumer? Is it a everyday user, anybody walking the streets? Is it a business? Is it a government entity? Is it a developer of that's consuming those tools? And then of those four major layers, then can we dissect that down? Okay, well, how is this person affecting the core business? Are they adding net new revenue? Are they optimizing and saving the company money? Or are they protecting an asset? Is it a security based function? So we can break all these layers down into like who is the core customer for the organization, internally or externally, and then what is that role responsible for? And so many teams miss that. They don't say it. They don't know it maybe, or they just don't know how to
I
express it.
am I crazy to think that they don't understand at times it's not their expertise, and that's okay, right? Like if you have a problem with when you have a problem at your house with your plumbing, you call a plumber, because that's not what you don't know. I mean, yes, you could figure it out, you can YouTube it, and I appreciate all you DIY people, but that's not what you do, right? So a technology company that's
Yeah.
building technology, it's doing code, it's product people, it's engineers, they don't necessarily know
It's almost
job descriptions and how to convey that's not their
yeah.
job. That's what we do, right? That is our job. That is what we specialize in. They specialize in building products. That's why I don't try to code. I'm
Yeah,
building an app, and I'm not coding this. I'm not
let,
going to
let
vibe code.
so part of it's that, and then part of it's like the psychology behind how somebody operates, right? So like if I'm a psychiatrist and I'm talking to you and your wife, that person comes with a unique set of skills in comparison to somebody that's working with kids all day, right?
Yeah.
Like their conversation, their day-to-day methodologies, their day-to-day interests, the things that they're just operating every single day, the tools that you would use with couples counseling is very different than the tools and the resources and the mental space that you're in than if you're working with kids, right? And so when I think about that into like the engineering world, we recently placed a CTO, and the reason why that it was a backfill. So this company had to let go of their existing CTO and bring on a new one because like their previous CTO was incredible, amazing, but he came with a security based background. So all of his tools were based around protecting assets, protecting money, protecting systems. And so when he went in there, he was very obsessed with making sure everything was picture perfect. Everything was tight. There were no leaks. There were no loose ends. There was all this. That person just thought about how do I make sure that the bank is the most secure bank on the planet.
But the stage the company was in was needing growth.
Yes, but the stage of the company was, we want to reinvent ourselves. We want to go out and build net new products. We want to go and do go-to-market strategy. And this person had done CTO level work at early stage companies, but all of the systems that they built and all of the things that they ever worked in were always security minded. So even though he was capable of building net new services and product and all of that, and he came in and he crushed it for the first 5 years. He crushed it. But when they were launching these net new ancillary services and these net new functions, net new features, they didn't have somebody that understood delivering new product.
Hence this, when you put up a role for CTO, you get 10,000 people who apply and they go, I've been a CTO, therefore I can be a CTO.
Yeah.
And therefore now your recruiting team has 10,000 CTOs or VPs of engineering apply, and they're like, well, they all have the right title. They might even have a similar tech stack.
Yeah.
They probably could do this job. They've done the architecture, etc., but they don't think the same way.
So their value metric is different.
Yeah.
Like where they perceive value is just different. And it's a bias. Sometimes they're consciously aware of it and sometimes they're unconsciously aware of it. But for a lot of teams and a lot of executives, they don't think about what type of mindset does this person need to have? Not just what are their technical competencies and have they used specific tools, but what is their mindset before they even pick up the tools?
Yeah. So this has been interesting. I like listening to what do you see the mistakes they make? I am hopeful. And what I want everyone who's listening, comment in here the challenges, whether you're an IC and you think your leadership team or teams you've seen in the past, the mistakes they make, or some of the really good stuff that they've done in the past. If you're a founder, come talk to us. Tell us what you've done that's so great or mistakes you've made. We'd love to hear your guys' stories. That's what we love to do, is just talk stories. It's way more fun. So please come on the show, DM Shane or I. For everyone else, like, comment, subscribe to what you guys think are some of the mistakes that you're seeing leadership teams make in their hiring decisions or their growth plans. Specifically in the 15 to 50 and 100 to 1,000 employees, because that's what we talked about today. It was really enjoyable. Thank you, Shane, and thank you, everyone, for listening. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your week, and join us soon with all of the podcasts that we're going to be rolling out here very, very shortly. Goodbye.